and let us all do we can to build a better future. This was not on my bingo card. You know, RFK Jr. on breaking points. Eventually saying something that I was caught off guard for. I think a lot of us were caught off guard, and that is, he said specifically the Palestinian people are the most pampered people. The most pampered people by international organizations in the history of the world. I mean, look, you know, when refugee centers and hospitals are being bombed, you know, you got to throw in some compassion, some mercy. I mean, that would be a sight to see, right? Mercy, compassion. So let's go ahead and pull this video up here. It's going to be difficult to sit through, but let's start off with the beginning. Let's play it.
So President Biden's administration, they have said that they have no red lines for the state of Israel and their conduct in this war. Do you have any red lines for Israel?
Well, you know, the red lines are that, you don't deliver, you do everything you can, which I think Israel is doing right now, to avoid civilian casualties. But, you know, there's collateral damage in every war, and they're fighting an implacable enemy. I mean, I don't think there's any country in the world that would go as far as Israel has gone to not invade Gaza. I mean, Israel was being bombed by Hamas, took over Gaza. Israel walked out of Gaza. There's no occupation.
No occupation to Gaza. Okay. All right. Well, you know, the bombings still continue. The madness is still being shown, especially on social media. A lot of this is extremely difficult to watch. So let's go ahead and play some more of this here. Hang on, folks. We haven't gotten to the prime rib video yet.
Their charter and their public statements day after day it's against Islamic law for them to even negotiate with Israel, except as a ruse. It says that in their charter. The only satisfaction for them, the only goal, is to annihilate Israel and kill every Jew, not just in Israel, but all around the world. So Israel, instead of going in and attacking, you know, if Mexico elected a communist government and the communist government began sending shells onto civilian populations in San Antonio and Houston and say, we're going to retake Texas, which they have a legitimate claim to, we're going to retake it. How long would it take us to go in there? It wouldn't take us very long. We would go in and we would do whatever it took to take out the people who are sending the shells. And Israel, instead of doing that, Israel did something extraordinary, which is it invested in an Iron Dome, which is to defend itself again, just to live with missiles. There's thousands, tens of thousands of Israelis that have, on that part of Israel, that have been raised in bomb shelters.
Yes, this war is devastating. So many lives have been severely destroyed. 75 years of unending forever war. At RFK Jr., there's around 20,000 deaths that have recently taken place in Gaza. Homes and residences destroyed, hospitals destroyed, refugee centers. There's nowhere for the people to go. Like, at this point, this must be the most stressful thing they're all dealing with. Where can they go? Where can they hide? How far can they run? There's nowhere to go. There's nowhere for any of the people to run. It's in a lose-lose situation, and all of the shelling and bombing that Israel is doing now is creating the next generation of people who are going to be radicalized, who are going to have hate, who are going to have absolute distrust for Israel. That's all what this is doing now. You're saying Israel has a right to defend itself. Fine. But you have to understand what kind of foundation it is laying down. And it's going to be the next war 10 years down the road.
Who would put up with that? There's
so, Bobby,
nobody in the world.
No one here is excusing the actions of Hamas, but I think you would agree.
No, in the rare moments where I'm kind of agreeing with Crystal Ball here, you know, like, again, I kind of wish that she would kind of give this pushback maybe to her friend Marianne Williamson, but I don't think we'll see anything like that. So there you go. Let's play the rest of this video here.
Israel has calls people before they bomb them. Nobody else in the world does that.
That must be the most frightening phone call anyone will ever get in their life. Hey, I'm going to blow up your house. Hey, your house is going to get destroyed. That's got to be terrible. You know, you kind of wonder, like, well, excuse me, do you sure have the right address? And all you hear is a hang up.
It's made 20,000 live calls. So somebody, an Arab-speaking IDF member who calls the landlord, they have the telephone numbers of everybody in Gaza. Now, there's a lot of connectivity problems, so they can't always
barely cell access right now.
Let me finish. They've made 20,000 live calls with people telling, here's what's going to happen. You need to move out in your neighborhood, on your building. They've sent 1.2 million robocalls. They've sent 1.2 million pamphlets. The pamphlets are color-coded for date and for time, so that you don't see an old pamphlet and say, oh, this won't apply to me. So people know when that building is going to get bombed. And they do something nobody else in the world does, because they invented it, which is they send in roof knockers, which is a projectile that
Nothing of this, what you're saying, sounds good, okay? Like, this is a nightmare situation. A roof knocker. Oh, your house got bombed. All right, here, just wait. You got to get out quickly, because then here comes the big one. Nothing like this sounds humane. Nothing, and I'm sure if this happened to any one of you, if you lived in a high-rise apartment or in a small little house or a two-flat or anything of that nature, you know, wherever you're living in the world, I'm pretty sure if something like that happened, you would be scared out of your mind. First, you get a phone call, then a roof knocker, and then, then comes the big one. But with all these bombings, I mean, I wonder how sincere they are doing with these phone calls now. We're just shooting everything and seeing what happens.
hits the roof 2 hours before they bomb the building to warn the people in that building to get out because they're going to bomb it. In warning the civilians, they're also warning Hamas.
So let's go ahead and talk about this next video that's going to be brought up. Now, it is brought up that 2.2 million people are having their access to food, water, and medicine being blocked right now. Now, do you think RFK Jr. is going to say, oh, that's terrible? I'll let you decide.
Of the procedures that you're talking about that they used in previous wars, they're not using this time. They've emphasized this attack on quote unquote power targets, which are things like civilian infrastructure and high-rise apartment buildings, not to get Hamas, but to create a quote shock in the civilian population. In addition, as I mentioned before, you have a collective punishment of 2.2 million people who are having their access to water, food, fuel, medicine blocked right now by Israel. This also appears to be in violation of the Geneva Conventions. Do you think that it's acceptable to impose a siege on the entire civilian population in Gaza?
If there's a violation, first of all, I don't think that's happening. Let me explain.
I don't think that's happening. Well, it is. It is happening. It is happening. Even a lot of the other mainstream outlets are covering it too. I'm surprised at how much corporate media is truly covering it. But that is happening, RFK.
Second of all, if it violates the Geneva Convention, or if they're deliberately, at any point, anybody is deliberately targeting civilians, they should be prosecuted and they should be jailed and the key should be thrown away. And people say this, but I don't see any proof of that.
No proof. You got, please pay attention to this. Maybe occasionally tune into the social media, here and there. But wait. We're not done yet. We're not done yet. I'm so sorry. There's a little bit more.
I don't see any proof of that. We right now that people are deliberately targeting civilians.
But the government announced they were doing a complete siege on the 2.2 million.
Yeah, okay. You're talking about the siege. The siege. Now, we did for 10 years. We did collective punishment of Iraq. We actually
I'm not
killed.
trying to justify that either here.
But why are we just going after the Jews? Why is it only when
Bobby.
Oh, okay. Look, The reason why people are protesting and being vocal about this on social media, and even corporate media is talking about it. And now finally, you got some politicians saying, doing the word salad of we got to do a ceasefire. Now, those politicians will never follow through on that. But you're now hearing more and more people call about because the bombings, the videos, the photos, everything that's being shown to the world, it is starting people to get a little disgusted. It's starting to get people to be upset. So, yes, people are calling for a ceasefire. 20,000 people dead. I didn't think we'd get to this number. Are we going to get to 50,000? 100,000? I know those are high numbers. Those are people, by the way, potential. But it's still ongoing. How much more is needed? How much more destruction is needed? And not to mention, taking into account, let's say when the ceasefire does happen, will there be food, water, or medicine being brought in? Because there are people who are still injured. There are people who could be at risk of dying of dehydration or starvation or lack of proper medical care. So then those numbers rise up even further. All of this needs to stop. Yet RFK Jr. is deflecting. Never forget, shout out to a lot of the brave people from INN and so many others who actually confronted and interviewed, or actually there were a couple people who called out RFK Jr. and Rabbi Shmuley. And there were a couple of people who interviewed the activists and organizers and peace groups that were there at that RFK Jr. and Rabbi Shmuley event, in which he was called out for his unwavering support for Israel.
Let me just finish this right now.
Our tax dollars are going to fund what's going on, and the visuals of these children being killed and losing their parents, and the rubble, and the total destruction. This is something our government is backing.
I have friends in Gaza. Okay, I have a friend.
Oh boy, not this one. This is on par of some of my best friends are black. Oh, some of my best friends are immigrants. Oh yeah, no, I'm very good with everybody. Some of my best friends are X, Y, and Z. So he has a best friend in Gaza. Great.
And who is a father of 5 kids, and what he's living through right now is horrible. I have many, many Palestinian friends. I've been to West Bank.
I have many Palestinian friends. RFK Jr. Oh my God. I recently saw on social media some people saying, I kind of want a refund from RFK Jr. because I'm not happy that I donated to this campaign, and his unwavering support for this is really twisting my gut. I don't like it. This is something that's happening. The weakest excuse you can ever do. Some of my best friends are Palestinians. Okay, if they're your best friends, man, don't you think it would be out of your goal, your need to really kind of call them out and help them maybe stop the war? Because you should like, hey, these are my friends here. These bombings are destroying things. So I don't know. Hey, let's have democracy in the chat. He could be telling the truth, but type 1 if you think RFK Jr.'s got some friends in Gaza that are currently right there. Type 1 for Kit. I believe him. Type 2, man. I don't. Man, no. I don't believe him.
Met with the Palestinian leadership. I love the Palestinian people. It's excruciating watching what's happened. But why are we blaming Israel? Why are we blaming
they're the ones dropping the bombs?
They have
with our dollars.
They have to get at Hamas. They have to destroy Hamas. And Hamas, unfortunately, built tunnels for themselves, but they did not build bomb shelters for their people. And Israel has told people, move to the south. There's food trucks there. There's medicine there. There's fuel there.
But there's not.
It's only not there.
The area they told them to go to is an area that is the size of LAX airport. It is a desert wasteland. There are no UN flag facilities. In fact, if you ask the Secretary General of the UN, he'll tell you there are no safe places in Gaza. You already have 1.8 million people who have been displaced from their homes. So, at what point do you say, okay, it's enough? Because the other piece of this, even if you say, and I know you're not saying this, but even if you say, I don't care about the Palestinian lives, they got to do what they got to do. It's the cost of war. What are you going to do? There's also a lot of evidence that what they're actually doing is fomenting increasing support for Hamas. Because if you think about it, if you're a kid and your parents get blown up, what kind of politics do you think you're going to have when you grow up? Isn't that going to be true?
That's true. That's true. One of the rare moments I can agree with Crystal Ball. I hope that maybe she someday does the same kind of grilling and takedown on Marianne Williamson. Maybe not. But look, here's where we get to the 31-second video. I'm so sorry for this in advance. If you want to look away, please do so. Because get ready to hear how the Palestinian people are the most pampered people in the world.
You talk about solutions for the Palestinian people. The Palestinian people are arguably the most pampered people by international aid organizations.
Oh my God. Hang on.
Are arguably the most pampered people by international aid organizations.
Are you kidding me?
No,
even before this war, 78% of people in Gaza said they had, not enough food to eat.
Right. And why is that? Why are you blaming Israel?
In part, it's Hamas, and in part, it's the fact that Israel imposed a blockade and talked about putting them on a diet.
Yes, precisely. Look, yes, Hamas has a role, of course. But man, Israel's been implementing this too. So it's horrific for everyone. In fact, the people in that region, in Gaza, the West Bank, Israel itself, I think they need to take a step back and look at their leadership. Their leaderships, that's all it is. It's been nothing but forever war. 75 years of unnecessary destruction at the behest of their leaders. Their leaders are the ones doing this. But then when you have somebody like RFK Jr., hold on, just one more time. The most pampered people in the world. I had to replay this video so many times just to even convince myself that, wait, this can't be real. Like no one could say, hey, look, I'm all for the First Amendment, but okay, you used your right. You said it.
Are arguably the most pampered people by international aid organizations.
Are you kidding me?
No,
even before this war, 78% of people in Gaza said they had, not enough food to eat.
Right. And why is that? Why are you blaming Israel?
In part, it's Hamas, and in part, it's the fact that Israel imposed a blockade and talked about putting them on a diet.
If your neighbor, first of all, Israel has no obligation. Israel built 3,000 hot houses and gave. You talk about solutions for the Palestinian people. The Palestinian people are.
Hold on. Sorry, I thought that video was a little bit longer. Let me go ahead and take this one down here for a second and pull up the next video because it just keeps on getting better. It keeps on getting better. Just want to pull this up here. Hello, somebody from Savvy Sabs. Of course, having dirty water is pampered. I thought he was an environmentalist. So what can we take away from this? What can we take away from RFK Jr. probably making the most brain dead statement ever in political history? The people of Palestine are systematically losing everything. They have nowhere to go, nowhere to hide. And when we want to talk about radicalization, I can imagine a kid that loses his loved ones and his friends. What does that do to them mentally, emotionally? It causes them to lose hope. It causes them to look for an alternative and to find somebody that caused that pain. You just can't say that this is okay. You can't. There's nothing okay about this. Because then I also want to share this with all of you. Because even as we spoke, this took place in regards to the hostages. Because Israeli people are saying, hey, what's happening to the hostages? There are still people there. Well, this happened.
Got some distressing breaking news coming out of the Middle East. We're hearing that 3 hostages held in Gaza have been killed in friendly fire. That according to an Israeli military spokesperson. In a statement, they said during combat, the IDF mistakenly identified 3 Israeli hostages as a threat. As a result, the troops fired toward them and they were killed. During searches and checks in the area in which the incident occurred, a suspicion arose over the identities of the deceased. Their bodies were transferred to Israeli territory for examination, after which it was confirmed that they were 3 Israeli hostages. The IDF began reviewing the incident immediately. The IDF emphasizes that this is an active combat zone in which ongoing fighting over the last few days has occurred. Immediate lessons from the event have been learned, which have been passed on to all IDF troops in the field. The IDF expresses deep remorse over the tragic incident and sends the families its heartfelt condolences.
Heartfelt condolences. You know, that's only 3 that we know about. And there's been a lot of bombings taking place. We don't know where any of those hostages who are still there are at. And there are probably a lot of families who are concerned about this because the bombings are still ongoing. Condolences to the family members. But the way RFK Jr. was describing, you know, the phone call, hey, get out, there's going to be a bomb. Then the roof knocker, boom, get out. Then comes a big one. And we're supposed to assume that, gee, this is such a compassionate military. No, it is not. And when people are dying, all what it's going to do is lead to further resentment and anger. So congratulations, especially to all of those people in power that sat on their hands. The next war is 10 years down the road. You did it. So get ready to pull out your portfolios that are soaked in blood as you have forever wars continue on. I don't know what lies in store for somebody like RFK Jr., especially as he pushes forward with his campaign. But there's been a couple of posts I've been seeing on social media of people saying, hey, they're done with him. They want a refund. They want to walk away from it. Whatever. Good luck. But all this blind, unnecessary support and then going on saying, hey, some of your best friends are Palestinians. Come on, buddy. That's like the classic sitcom joke from the 90s, okay? You never dust that one out and assume that people are going to nod and smile. It's 2023. When people hear that, that's like a big old red flag. Some of my best friends are X, Y, and Z. Some of my friends are these and that and those. Really? So, what are their names? They're so close to you. What are their names? An inquiring mind wants to know.